The reason I invited you here, Tanabe-san, is because you're working on the just-announced game, Donkey Kong Country Returns. Tanabe-san, you worked with Retro Studios on 3 Metroid Prime games. And as we were discussing on what to do next, something happened.
Right. As I recall, it was around April of 2008, and several core members of Retro, who had spent the last 7 or 8 years working on the Metroid Prime series, had just left the company. Right around then, I had heard from Miyamoto-san that he wanted to make a new Donkey Kong game, and was looking for a developer to work on the project. He asked me if I knew a good studio to handle the task. Thinking on it a moment, I remembered that Michael Kilbaugh, Retro's CEO, had worked on the Donkey Kong Country series for quite some time during his years working at Nintendo of America, and had previously told me he wanted to work on the series again. That's when I thought to myself, we might just have something here.
That sounds like fate.
It was. From there, things moved forward quickly, and when Retro came to Japan, I remember you telling Retro the very same thing. The Japanese word you used when talking with Retro is often translated as destiny or fate. So, Michael suggested that this project's codename be the letter F, followed by the numeral 8, so that it read as Fate. With the project's codename established, we were off and running on the game.
You've been to Austin, Texas for long periods, many times to work closely with them. Can you tell me about how it's like working with them on this game?
As its name, Donkey Kong Country Returns, suggests, we decided quite early on that we wanted to base the game off of the original Donkey Kong Country for the Super Famicom, or Super NES, as it's known in America. We wanted people to get a sort of nostalgic feel while playing the new title, but we also wanted to bring some fresh, different elements to the game.
Which is the same challenge when we were making New Super Mario Bros. Wii. Everyone remembers the memory of when they played it very positively, and that memory has been even purified in our minds. While it brings smiles to our faces just remembering about it, people will think nothing of it if we make it exactly the same. We can make it look better than before, but that raises the question if that's all that needs to be done. If there needs to be other features, and what will be the new, exciting factor.
Right. It was when Donkey Kong Jungle Beat had just come out, or maybe a little before its release. Either way, I'd heard about the game, and knew I had to find a way to get Donkey Kong Country Returns to stand out. At this point, I didn't know about the new Mario game in the works. Anyhow, thinking back on the Donkey Kong Country series, you had Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong, but the player never actually had full control over both of them at once. It used to be a tag match of sorts.
The two always, you control one and the other followed.
That's what we wanted to change. At the very early stages of development, we decided to make it so that 2 people could play at the same time, which would have been a first in the series. But this direction was opposed by Miyamoto-san at first. He said that it's hard enough to craft a great single-player game, and that it would be even harder to make a satisfying 2-player experience.
He said that while he was making a 4-player game.
That's right. Again, I didn't know that at the time, but ultimately, I think it was great that we took on the challenge of 2-player play. In this game, Diddy Kong carries a jetpack on his back. If you hold the button after jumping, you can make him sort of hover along, like so.
Rather than going higher, you're able to maintain height.
Correct. So moving around gets easier. And if you do that while Diddy Kong is on Donkey Kong's back, Diddy Kong can carry Donkey Kong along with him.
So both can fly.
So, if you're playing with someone who's not as good as you can help them out. Working out this cooperative mechanic was one of the first things I talked to Retro about in detail during early stages of the project.
Did the Retro developers play a lot of Donkey Kong Country on the Super NES back then?
They did, and they're all really good.
I see. In that respect, I'm sure they brought in a lot of ideas.
Right. But when I had them work on their own, they sometimes made maps where you always had to be going non-stop, like you were completing some sort of speed run. So I had to step in and ask them to hold back a little, saying there need to be places where the player has to stop and calculate the timing of their next move. Of course, Retro is always thinking about the casual players too, and they do keep in mind that the levels can't be made too hard. It's just that they're hardcore players themselves, and it shows.
Tanabe-san, Donkey Kong Country is a series that has been played by people for a very long time, and now it has made a comeback as Donkey Kong Country returns. What about it would you like to point out to people?
That's a good question. Well, let's start with sound. Some Nintendo figures, people such as Miyamoto-san and Nintendo of America's Fukuda-san, had very strong opinions about the game's sound. They made it clear we should make sure the music and sound from the original game stayed intact. It's clear that, in addition to the graphics, the music of the series made a big impression on people.
Exactly. People always talk about the visuals of the game, but the game music was high quality as well. It stood out among all other games of that time.
Yeah, the music brings you back and gets you feeling nostalgic, but while the music helps to conjure up old memories, the graphics switch things up. The original Donkey Kong Country was rendered in 2D, but this new title renders the world in 3 dimensions. Everything, even the stage backgrounds, are made of polygons. So I'd like people to enjoy the nostalgic aspects of the art and the sound, and at the same time, savor the new additions to the series, such as the 2-player mode and the enhanced graphics. I really want people to enjoy the blend of classic and new here.
Seeing that it's returning at this day and age makes me think that this Donkey Kong comeback is led by fate.